So we've been working with earth mortars in a heritage context and a new build context. So this is us. I work with architects, Becky works with Rebearth, and we both work with eBucky as project officers. So we've been working with earth mortars in heritage, in new build, doing research, and in training both the professionals and contractors for about 20, 25 years. And for the last few years, we've been funded by Historic Environment Scotland to do research into traditional earth mortars in Scotland. And I have to say, it slightly builds off some of the work that was done, we saw in Ireland when Clayfest was over there, and research we've been doing with Historic England as well. But HES funded us to do some research really looking at what is the tradition and what is the gap in skills, knowledge and competence. And so you find earth mortars everywhere. It's just such a fundamental part of the tradition, but it's not well recognised, well understood, and it's not supported by good conservation practice or processes in terms of materials and techniques. And we've, if you follow the QR code, it will take you to the website where you can download our scoping study, which was the first stage output from the project. And we kind of came up with 29 recommendations in that research for improving skills, knowledge, and competence. And two of them were to improve the discourse between the building conservation community and the archaeology community, and to look at the early prehistory use of earth materials. And that took us through being asked to look at a listed farm complex by Orkney Council. It gave us the opportunity to engage with Orkney, where those two things really come together, because Orkney has a wonderful surviving heritage of early buildings, Neolithic complexes, and a community of archaeology who have been studying that for about 150 years or so. And that gave us the two ingredients we needed to work with. So the earliest surviving settlement in Europe at Skara Brae, and the oldest individual house in Europe at Napapower on Papa Westray. And these are 5,500 years old or so. So this is where Orkney is, planet Earth, and just kind of at that sort of frayed edge where the Eurasian continent runs out into the Atlantic Ocean, and somewhere between the hot deserts of Africa and the frozen tundra of the north. And it's an archipelago of 27 islands currently. And so this is the drift soil geology map. And it's that thing where there's a massive amount of edge condition then to that place. It's very well defined because it's islands, and you can see the geology right around that coastline. And so we had both the surviving heritage, we had an archaeological community, and we had a fantastic way in to looking at the earth of the place. And that, and what we found was that in the Neolithic, earth was fundamental part of the culture. It was key to the start of farming, it was key to ceramics and pottery, and it was key to the start of building as well as a component there in these early structures. And it comes through in the relationship of people to place through material. And that was what we wanted to explore. So eBucky got funding from Historic Environment Scotland, National Heritage Lottery Fund, and the Society of Antiquaries of Scotland to run a project which Becky is now going to present to you.
That's not Orkney, just so you know. I'm going to keep it really brief because we've already lost some time, but I became an artist during COVID. I mean, I was always an artist, but I decided to own the title. I'm really a builder. And now I'd never believe I'd stand on a stage with a Seamus Heaney poem inside the ruins of Chattahoyuk, a 9,000-year-old earth-built settlement, just setting the tone. And as a painter, I'm disrupting the canvas. So my background's all about taking rocks from the land, burning them in the old days, creating mortars with them in a medieval kind of fashion in that sense, I was a mortar mason. So it's about how things transform, mixing things with water and fire. It's about the wisdom of the body, hugely, senses, muscles that remember things, doing things again and again and again, with materials from place, tools that you create or find or reinvent. And it's all about where we are in time and place. And the more I think about the future, the more I get stuck into the past. How we look after things. We can lime wash this building in Fife a little bit every year. And it's getting old, but it's beautiful. And obviously there's a bit of a metaphor with me at a certain age. And then there's a thing about stroking walls. You've all been stroking the walls this week. And when you stroke a wall, you connect with the wall. The wall becomes like a body. You're part of the wall. Your skin goes into it. Although I see in this picture, I was still wearing marigold gloves, which is quite funny, but that was a few years ago now. We're all entangled together. And when we take materials from place, we often make buildings that look like the place they're from. And so this entanglement is something I'm exploring now in the way I'm making with earth. I don't need to say any more about that. I love to look at old walls. I love to unravel the stories they tell. What are they made from? Are they looking at basketry? Are they connecting to skin? Are they this as in hides and working with skin? Are they some other craft entirely? Are there stories in there to do with the geometry? Is it a cheetah? Spots of a cheetah. And then in Scotland, we're so ashamed of them that we knock them down mostly. And when we don't knock them down, we cover them with brick and cement and then they fall down. This is 30 years ago. Most of these buildings have gone now in Scotland. And we would have made that as a group. So we would have had access to that. We would have done it together. And then materials became specialized. They came on railways and they were industrialized. And we have to do everything everywhere all at once. So I'm not dissing that, but I'm a bit more interested in the human story. Why were these people dressed in their Sunday best and put in front of a ruin? What is that story telling us? We have to question everything. So I was part of this project called Terre, Femme and Savoir-Faire. I'm not sure if the videos are going to play. Actually, it's a bit of a shame. Yay! So we did this project, training in France, and I had the idea of a continuum of Earth where Earth buildings were on a spectrum, diverse spectrum, where one changed to another with no categories. I'm always trying to get rid of categories and labels, as Roland knows. And I just set the architects the project of, well, we'll have damp earth here and we'll have wet earth there and we'll transform from rammed to shiny balls, and it's up to you how that happens. And they went with it and made a beautiful structure in the shape of a Mobius strip. So now the artist is here. We have some themes that I'm digging about in, materialism being the one, and vibrant matter. For those of you that know Jane Bennett, go and check her out. The age of clay or soil, when we became Neolithic early farmers. We were still hunting as well. Nothing is from one to the other without a slow change. And now my practice is about mixing art and science together. I can give access to these slides later so you can read them. But words do matter, and what we define things as is important. One thing I just pulled out of this slide is that most archaeologists that I've met, especially in Scotland, don't actually know what clay is. So if they don't know what it is and they can't describe it exactly, then how do they know what they're looking at when they're digging? And so a big part of my story is about making Earth visible to everybody, but especially to archaeologists. And it's working. So that's what this project is about. Tom's mentioned the edge. Orkney was the edge and is also in the centre of things for a lot of prehistory and history, especially if you're in a boat. Some of it's flat, bits of it are very rugged and high, like this island of Hoy, and there's an earth building, earth and stone. The land shows you how to work with the materials because the stone lies with clay amongst it and above it. But the stone is amazing too, and everyone gets very excited about the stone, and I'm not surprised. But I'm more about the earth, and there it is in all its glory. So Tom showed Skara Brae. This is largely, a bit visibly looks like a stone structure, but fundamentally it's an earth-built structure with a stone skin and some stone furniture. It's got clay hearths, clay floors, clay cappings, And when we look at all of these monuments that people think of as stone monuments, inside that stone is some sort of subsoil with clay in it, as mortar, as packing. There's also bones in it because they're reusing middens. The middens is the centuries of domestic rubbish become building materials. So it's the ultimate recycling. There's a beautiful clay floor in the middle of Maze Howe for anyone that's been there. And we see clay plaster on the walls. The archaeologists generally don't see that, but we see it, and usually they scrape it off to see the stone better. It's in Iron Age Brochs. This one's the cairns. They have a red cell and a yellow cell because of the render that's on those walls. That's how they've named them during the dig. So, again, it's not going to work. I'll just do it by hand. These are the colours of Orkney. I mean, that's such a palette when you're an artist. It's so exciting, and it's three-dimensional as well as colourful. So I started to play with the clays and make dorodangos, which is like my soil test for how clay-rich it is and how strong the clay is. And we were mapping and we were sampling. We got 140-something samples, been a bit busy. Made them into tiles. There they are on a map. By examining the particular of a place and time, you can touch the universal little planets. And then sitting on spheres of rammed earth. All of these techniques were available to the prehistoric builders just as they are now. It's just that we don't see it in the past. Now, this is the video. This is what's been causing the problem. It is online. You can all go and watch it later. Okay, well, maybe we can give you the link to this video because it tells the story of the project. I'm really sorry we can't have it. It's got music and everything. So, me and Tom are a combined organism. And we work together on nearly everything. And so I have a picture of him cleaning a table. But it's very much a joint project. And it's like music or something. And we chuck bits at each other and they change as they go in backwards and forwards. But this is the exhibition at Maze Howe. So if anyone's going to Orkney, it's there all summer. We're on the radio and everything. And just to finish my little bit, so what about the rights of soil? That's something that's my next little crusade. So we can talk about the rights of all kinds of life, but what about the rights of soil? Tom, do you want to finish up?
Sure. So I think, when you look at the heritage of earth building in Orkney, you can see this tradition of making in place that provided, warm, comfortable homes and a thriving community for 5,500 years. And you have this thing of, you call it the Neolithic, the New Stone Age, and you call it the Iron Age, but actually that's just part of sort of Enlightenment classification. The important thing is the continuity that runs through it of a relationship of people to place. But it all stopped, didn't it, at the end of the vernacular era when we got mass-produced, industrialized synthetic materials and powered transport, and now everything Orkney is built from concrete and steel and plastic and stuff that comes from, God knows where, and leaves behind after its lifetime a legacy of waste and has broken, that connection of people to place and to the resources that we used for, 800 generations passed down of how to make our place in the world from what we find there beneath our feet. And there's a connection then, in making to farming, how we sustain ourselves, the growing of food, where the food now is all imported from God knows where around the world. And that thing of respect for the soil and being the soil, and how we make our vessels and our furniture, and we kind of lost that. And it wasn't just the stuff we lost. We lost part of ourselves and part of our shared humanity with our environment. And I forget what the slide's about, so we'll move on to the next one. And yeah, so it's that thing of, I guess we see everything, or at least I do now, in the context of the climate and nature emergency and the work we've been doing on the just transition in buildings, construction and the built environment to net zero. And in Scotland, most of our places were traditionally on the coast or on rivers, which are now placed them under threat. And that's especially true in Orkney, where that relationship with the sea is a constant. And, you know, the threat that comes with the sea, but the opportunity as well, and the connection to a global economic and climate environment. And you know, these places, they're very vulnerable. And because our place in the world has become very fixed, our infrastructure, our architecture, what we've invested in makes us vulnerable in a way, and our heritage is as well. In the Neolithic era, the sea level here was maybe 10 metres lower, so we've lost a lot of that place already, and these places will go. And so part of this project is about the future as well as the past, and that trying to get back that continuity. So I'll just finish with some images of the exhibition. The book is for sale outside in the lobby, and that's the QR code. You can go to the website and watch the video that we weren't able to show you through that link. Thank you very much.